You are listening to WBHM, Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I'm talking to Julie Griffin. We're talking about Gettysburg. So some of the better places in Gettysburg that you would recommend to somebody who's a first timer there, where would those places be?
Part of being in Gettysburg is that so much of the town is the battlefield. You don't have to go out just onto the battlefields, even though they are beautiful. And there's, like a 24-mile driving tour to go through all of it. But if you're on some of the main streets, if you're at the Jenny Wade house, the street out in front, she was hit by a stray bullet through the door. This was all battlefield. I don't know why I get this name mixed up. Farnham or Farnsworth House.
Farnsworth.
There we go. Thank you. And you can see all the marks in the brick from all the bullets during the battle. All of that is battlefield. I have walked along that stretch and I have smelled pipe tobacco when there has been no one smoking. That area, if you're just out walking, and I highly recommend to take the time just to walk those main street areas. I mean, there's a lot of tourist shops and there's a lot of neat stuff to poke in and out of, but just to kind of experience it. What I have gone on and what I've enjoyed is that the Farnham, you said. I don't know why I never get that name straight. Right. Their house, one of the very first things that I ever did when I went there was I took one of their ghost tours, one of their ghost walks. And they do a nice job, and they take you to locations. And so I can definitely give a plug for that one. I've done the tour going through the Jenny Wade house. I've done the tour going through the orphanage. And again, it's getting into the locations, but you also get a better feel for it too, even when you've got a crowd of people and such. But a lot of it's just getting out and spending the time and just following your instincts, just kind of following your gut. Just find a spot and sit. Where does it feel like you want to go? What feels familiar, or what just keeps pulling you back and you don't quite know why? And a lot, it's just time in the field and just getting out there and just enjoying an amazing, amazing city. It's a very large area.
Yes.
So just taking a ride out into the countryside. But like I said, so much of it, so many of the roads, they were battlefields. The route between Gettysburg and Cashtown, because with the battle, Cashtown is kind of where things started, mm-hmm. because the two armies didn't know that they were so close by when this happened. They were actually in the area because they heard there was a big cache of shoes they were trying to find. And that's how they both ended up so close. But the Cashtown Inn isn't that far away. I've been there. That's got quite a haunted reputation. But if you just take a look at the roads, because when the Confederates left, that's the way they went. They had a 17-mile wagon train taking everyone and everything out. So just imagine what that energy must have been like as they were traveling out of Gettysburg. So a lot of times just driving along some of the major roads that the troops march down, they've got their own energy.
They do. It does feel... It feels ominous in some of the locations.
Mm-hmm.
In other locations, it feels very sad. But in other places where they have a lot of the monuments, it more feels like awe than anything else. From my experience.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, when I went there in 1977, 90% of those monuments were not there.
Oh my gosh.
So you have to think back to then to what it looks like now. It's totally different than it was on my school field trip when I went back then.
Wow.
One of my I had paranormal experiences back in 1977 there where there were no ghost tours then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was nothing that I could tell anybody, hey, there's this kid over here that wants to tell me what happened to them. They didn't die in the war. They died because they died of sickness after their parents were killed during how do you can't tell people this stuff when you're 12 years old.
No, not at all, and especially
not when you're already the weird kid.
Yeah, and especially in the 70s, it's a whole different world now where you can go and talk openly about this stuff, and people don't think you're nuts because you can have a conversation about it, which is what's so darn nice now. Where back then, because I was having experiences, growing up in the 70s. And again, we talked within the house and, when things went on and such. But beyond that, you didn't tell anybody else because it was just too out there.
Oh, yeah. Because they'd look at you and, hey, this person's nuts. So David asks, have you ever seen an apparition outside on the trail, like in the park?
I have not at the park. In my life, I've seen 2 apparitions, but both of them were when I was growing up in Ohio, in one particular house that we lived in. But I've seen very, very little with my eyes. I've gotten where I hear disembodied voices or just sounds more often than I did in the very beginning. But to actually see an apparition, it's been a really, really long time. To actually see it with my eyes.
Sometimes they don't want you to see them with your eyes. They want you to see it later, after you go home on your camera. They don't want you to see it.
And that's what my experience has been. And actually, this has obviously worked out for me because when I just keep shooting and shooting and shooting because I'm not paying attention as I'm taking pictures to see, oh, did I get something? Did I get something? I don't do that. I want to stay hungry is probably the best way to phrase it. I want to keep working it and working it. I have had those couple of times where in the split second in the viewfinder, I've seen something in the photo that got my attention. But that's the rare exception when something really stands out.
What is the key to really getting the best ghost picture?
Time in the field and taking a lot of photos. It's good. No joke. I had probably shot 50,000 photos by the time the book came out. When this all exploded on me, I was just diehard on this. And if I went up to Gettysburg, I'm coming home with 1,000 photos a day because that's how you go and raise your odds. And again, you got to take 3 of the exact same thing. And it's taking a huge number of photos. And that's also how you learn as you just keep looking at them and scrutinizing them and going over them. And then when you think you have something, find somebody, that you can go and show it to and say, hey, what do you think? I believe I've got something here. And get their 2 cents on it. But a lot of it is just getting out there and doing it and getting out to different locations and persistence. More than anything else, it's just persistence, and have I'm a Nikon fan. It's just what I happen to like. And, use something better than cell phones are there. They're nice if it's all you've got available at the time. But kind of a mid-range camera, you don't need anything fancy. Right now, I've upgraded to a P900. I love it because it's got an insane zoom. It's literally got a 2,000 times zoom built into the camera.
Wow.
Yeah, and I love this camera. And that's what I've been using in the last couple of years, and I'm still getting captures because for the longest time, I wouldn't use a different camera. Even though they'd stopped making it, I'd gone online. I'd bought a couple more of them just in case. And I finally upgraded just because I like that really, really intense zoom. And I've used that quite often. Say you're out, working a battlefield and taking shots where you can go and zoom into, the trees, that are a few hundred feet away from you and and frame a decent shot. It just gives a lot more options.
Yeah.
But again, it's taking a lot of photos, and because we're with digital, it's affordable. I could never do this if it was film. It would be just impossible.
Which brings me to another question. Of the cameras in the medium, which is the best? I mean, truly for capturing these, there's Polaroid, there's film, there's digital. I know that your medium right now is digital, but when you think about it, which ones are the best for capturing question-free pictures?
I don't know that I can say one over the other. I do everything in digital, and that's all I've ever worked in is digital. But I've seen some marvelous photos taken with film. I think digital, just because we can take thousands of photos affordably, is why I would say it. But again, everybody's different. You got to kind of play with what works for you, what kind of piece of equipment works better for you. What do you just enjoy using? What do you enjoy doing? What are you willing to go and sit in front of your laptop and either look at or listen to for hours on end? But I would say digital just because of what it allows me to do.
Have you ever used any of those programs where you can take video and break down your video into individual photos?
I don't really shoot much video because my success has really been in stills, and I've got video cameras. I can do video work, but my heart is in stills. That is really my bottom line. I love shooting stills.
Well,
so that's just kind of what I've stayed with, Well,
I'll tell you, I know I've seen some really unusual Polaroids. They can't be manipulated, but if you move just right while they're taking it, you're going to get a weird picture.
That's true.
Because of the shutter speed. And that's one of the things that people didn't know back then.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they accidentally click the button twice.
Double exposures and such.
Yeah, but people didn't know that back then. So if they left it in there and didn't pull it out fast enough and hit the button, you could accidentally get a double exposure. And as a kid, we found that out because we weren't fast enough and didn't actually know how to use a camera. So, hey guys, we are coming up on the top of the hour news break. So this is going to be a 5-minute break, so you guys can go take a short break, take the dog out, whatever you need to do. And we're going to come back with Julie Griffin for our last hour. You guys need to get your questions out there for me so that I can get them asked. And you're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We will be back in 5 minutes, and we'll be waiting for you.
NPR podcasts are now available on every platform. Check out all our shows at npr.org/podcasts. That's npr.org/podcasts.
Live from NPR News in Washington.